A good Erev Shabbos and a happy Chanukah. Don't stop me if you've heard this one before. Once upon a time, long, long ago, the Assyrian Greeks set out to dominate and conquer the Jewish nation in our land. They besieged Yerushalayim, they desecrated the temple, made it unfit for service. Led by the Maccabees, the Jewish nation fought back and prevailed. Returning to the temple, they wished to reinstate the daily service there, but they found only one jar of pure oil to light the menorah. Miraculously, this one-day supply lasted 8 days, which was enough to produce more pure oil to keep the menorah lit continuously. We commemorate this in our days by the 8-day festival of Chanukah, or rededication. The story, as we were told it as children, is pretty clear and easy to remember and inspiring in many ways. Yet when we revisit the story as adults, there's so much more to understand and appreciate, and so much more to inspire us in our times. Even though we're not exactly children anymore, we all have a bit of child in us, which is a good and important thing. And at the same time, it's altogether fitting and proper to grasp things with a more mature appreciation, a more adult understanding. We're helped in this by our good friend Rabbi Yosef Karo. He's one of our great teachers of halacha. In fact, many call him Maran, our master, and everyone calls him the Mechaber, the author, the editor, the one who set the table for us, the ready table, the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law, which he first published in 1565, a little more than 5.5 centuries ago. Shulchan Aruch, which we still study and consult today for the essential halachos that we then apply to our times and our situations, was a sort of a distillation, a summary account of Rabbi Yosef Karo's earlier work titled, after his own name, Beit Yosef, the House of Joseph. Beit Yosef is an extended and extensive running commentary on the entirety of an earlier code of Jewish law called Arba Turim, the 4 columns compiled by Rabbi Yaakov ben Asher, who was born in Cologne in Germany 750 years ago. Rabbi Yosef Karo's Beit Yosef questions the Chanukah miracle in a way that yields a depth we probably did not appreciate when we were 4 or 5 or 6 when we first encountered the Chanukah story. It's so famous and so widely known that it's referred to in shorthand as the Kasha of the Beis Yosef, the Beis Yosef's Kasha, the question of Rabbi Yosef Karo. Here we go. The essential question, the Kasha of the Beis Yosef, is why do we have an 8-day holiday of Chanukah if the miracles were really only 7 days? Recall that they did find enough oil to last 1 day, so that oil burned for a day, just as you would expect. The miracle was the subsequent 7 days, while they were making new, pure or tahor oil. So really the celebration should be 7 days, not 8. Okay, seems like not the most complicated question, right? In fact, pretty simple on the face of it. Like any great question, it's better than any of the answers, although the question has given rise to rich conversation and debate over the last few hundred years. Within the last 10 years, a book called Yemei Shmona was published in Israel, promising 500 different responses, things you can learn from the Beis Yosef's question. We won't go into all of them today, but we'll sample a few. It's a good question, right? Our essential Talmud class is making our way through Tractate Shabbat, Maseches Shabbos, and the second parak, the chapter titled Bameh Madlikin, with what shall we light, starts off discussing kindling Shabbos lights, but before long, it touches on the question of kindling the Chanukah lights and asking about the nature of the holiday itself in the sugya of my Chanukah, what is Chanukah, which is the basis for our understanding the holiday. That sugya, that passage talking about Chanukah, explains the history, the time and place of lighting, the brachas, the blessings to be said at the time of lighting, and who should light a menorah and how. The miracle of Chanukah is that the oil lasted 8 days, as we said at the beginning, as we all know. But is it? If you think about it and reflect that they found that 1-day supply of oil, still sealed with the purity seal of the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, then really the miracle, as we say, as the Beis Yosef points out, lasted 7 days. 1 day of normal burning and 7 days of miraculous burning. That's the essence of the question. So some answer that yes, the miraculous burning was 7 days, but the miracle of the first day was the finding. That itself was miraculous, as the Assyrians had tried to ruin, spoil, wreck, make impure every single bit of the temple. So finding 1 jug of oil, that was a miracle. Another answer given by some wise guy is that this bottle was sealed with the hechsher, the kosher symbol of the Kohen. The miracle was that everybody held of that hashgacha. Everybody agreed that you could rely on it. Still others say that the miracle of the first day was not oil-related at all, but war-related, victory-related. The miracle of the first day was winning the war. The miracle for the 7 days after that was the miracle of the oil lasting. Now, how exactly did it last? And why did it take 8 days to make more oil? Plenty of answers for that as well. Second question first. Why 8 days to make new oil? Some suppose that the place where oil was produced must have been 4 days away from Yerushalayim. So a round trip there and back with a new supply of oil would take 8 days. Okay, Israel's not really that big, and only nowadays with the traffic does it seem like it takes 4 days to get anywhere. A better answer might be this. Remember that the fighters in the battle, the soldiers, were Kohanim. No doubt there was bloodshed and death, which would have made these soldiers tamei meis, ritually impure themselves, having been in contact with dead bodies. How long does it take to rectify tumas meis, death impurity, to purify it? 7 days, with the procedure of sprinkling the red heifer's ashes, the para aduma. 7 days plus 1 day to produce or bring new oil. Even I can do that math. 8 days. That seems like a reasonable answer about the time required to obtain new oil. Now, how exactly did the oil last? Another good question. Put yourself in the position of the Maccabees, the Hashmonaim. You win the battle. You regain control of the temple. You want to start things up again. Lighting the menorah, top of your list. Beautiful national symbol. But only 1 jug of pure oil. 1 day's supply. It takes 8 days to get new oil. We just said why. What do? Do you light all the oil you have and hope for the best? Why not save some for later? In fact, why not save 7/8 of it for later, tomorrow, the next day? Just put in 1/8 for now, and you'll do that each day while your supply chain issue gets resolved. Good idea? That's one proposal to the question, that they put 1/8 in, and it actually burned all day, not just for 3 hours, as per nature 1/8 of the day's supply should have, but rather it burned much longer. Problem with that answer is in a halacha, a detail about the temple service. All the vessels had to be filled up to the fullest. You couldn't use a half measure or a half spoon or a half a jug of anything. Every service vessel in the temple had to be filled to the top. Okay, this was difficult times, but still, better than nothing. You decide. You make the call. So even if they did fill 1/8 of the menorah cups with oil each day, or they filled each cup 1/8 of the way, then indeed every day was a miracle. The first day, second day, third day, one was a miracle, just the same as the next. But if they did not, and they followed the rule of fill her up, then the first day was or was not a miracle. Well, it depends on how things unfolded. What should happen is this. You fill the oil, you light the lamp, and the oil burns. It burns down. The next morning, there's half the oil, and by the next evening, 24 hours after you lit, it's burned down to the end. It's all used up. So maybe there was an oil-related miracle on the first day also, that the oil burned, but it was not consumed. Remember the burning bush? It says clearly in the verse there, V'hasneh ein enu ukal. The bush burned, but it was not consumed. Maybe it's the same thing here. The oil burned, but was not consumed. The next morning, when they came to look in on the menorah, it was still burning as they hoped, but on closer inspection, the oil level wasn't any lower than the night before when they kindled it. So there's a first day oil-related miracle if there ever was one. And a variation on this is a little harder to perceive, but still amazing. Maybe the oil burned at 1/8 its normal rate, so that 1 day's supply would actually last for 8 days. That would mean that halfway through the first day of kindling the menorah, when you would expect that it's halfway gone, which is the natural way, actually only 1/2 of 1/8 is consumed, or 1/16. You probably have to get out your compass, your protractor or something to measure that miracle. But even a small miracle is a miracle, nonetheless, right? We'll take it where we can get it. Every question has an answer. Every answer also has a question. With this answer to the miracle question, we raise another question. The mitzvah is to light the menorah with shemen zayit zach, pure olive oil. It doesn't say light with miracle oil. What's the difference between olive oil and miracle oil? Can you even tell? Can you look at a jug of oil and tell if it's produced from olives or produced from miracles? I certainly can't. How about how it burns? If you kindle a wick in it and the light burns, but the oil level is not diminished, does that make it miracle oil? Tough call, difficult to say. For that matter, it raises a question which raises another question. What's the difference between pure olive oil and impure olive oil? There is no discernible trace. You cannot look and tell that this is pure, this is impure. There's nothing evident to the eye or even to any chemical test. You cannot test for tahara. You simply have to trust the seal on the bottle. If it's sealed with the Kohen Gadol's seal, so then it's still tahor. If it's not sealed anymore, if it's been broken or compromised, then it's not pure. So what are you supposed to do if you don't have any oil at all? Let's say they had looked and found not 1, but 0 bottles of pure oil, of tahor oil. What would our heroes, the Maccabees, have done then? Thankfully, we'll never know. But they might have thought to rely on a view from the Gemara in Psachim, which argues that Tuma Hutra B'tzibur, that in a case of public need, i.e. for temple use, impure oil could be used if no pure oil were to be found or available. Others read this as Tuma Dechuya B'tzibur, it's temporarily suspended, but still the idea is to use pure oil. Others say that when you're starting anew, it must be pure and the temporary permission to use impure cannot be relied upon. The bottom line is this. There are a lot of times in life, in our individual lives, the life of the Jewish people, even the community of us that lives in Israel, where it's difficult to know exactly what to do. There's a lot of calculation and reckoning that goes into trying to decide a course of action. The example from lighting the menorah at this rededication of the temple is this. There may have been an easier way. There may have been a permissible way to do things. It's not exactly as kosher, but you could allow it, given the extenuating circumstances. And yet they appreciated the miraculous victory in battle, the miraculous finding of just enough oil. Even though the path forward from that point wasn't clear. What would they do the next day? I don't think they knew. But that day, those who chose to light the menorah using only pure oil that was produced with the highest standard of ritual purity carried the day and lit the path for those who would come after them and answer the challenge of each age and each moment above and beyond the call of duty. God continues to sustain us above and beyond all rules of nature and politics and history, and we continue to do what it takes, ever above and beyond the minimum required, to continue to illuminate the world, even when it seems that we might soon run out of oil. Somehow, enough is always found, and somehow it always lasts. Please God, may it continue to be so until the world enjoys complete illumination with the light of purity and holiness. A good Shabbos, Chodesh Tov, and happy Chanukah.